The invitation that wasn't his. Ethan Ryder was just a tired cargo pilot looking for noodles and some rest. His ship, the Broken Comet, had barely made it to the Zarkel spaceport after engine trouble. The alien planet was bright, loud, and full of species he couldn't name. He didn't care. He only wanted hot food and peace. He sat at a corner table in a small noodle shop beside Docking Bay 4. Alien steam hissed from the pot in front of him. Spicy smells filled the air. Ethan picked up the chopsticks when something strange happened. Golden envelope landed on his table, not dropped, not handed to him, just appeared out of nowhere, like the air had folded and left it there. It shimmered like sunlight on water. Words written in glowing ink moved across the surface, twisting between alien symbols and, oddly, English. Royal invitation. One guest, honored by prophecy. Ethan looked around. Nobody was watching him. The noodle vendor was busy arguing with a four-armed customer. Slowly, Ethan picked up the envelope and opened it. Inside was a card made of living fabric. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Your presence is required at the royal wedding of Princess Gilera of the House of Flame. Palace shuttle departs in 10 minutes. This has to be a mistake, Ethan muttered. Before he could stand, 3 tall armored guards marched into the shop. They had skin like silver stone and wore cloaks with royal symbols. They looked around, then pointed at Ethan. Human. The lead one said, You carry the mark of the invitation. Wait, this isn't mine, Ethan said, standing up and holding the card out. You've got the wrong guy. The guard scanned the invitation. His eyes glowed for a second. Then he gave a deep bow. Forgive our lateness, honored guest. The palace awaits. But I'm not. Ethan began, but the guards had already surrounded him. The entire shop stared as he was gently but firmly escorted out. His noodles still sat steaming on the table. The guards led Ethan through the spaceport, ignoring his protests. They moved with purpose. When they reached a sleek shuttle made of glass and glowing vines, the door slid open without a sound. Please, the guard said, do not delay the princess. Ethan stepped inside. The door closed behind him. The shuttle lifted off silently. Outside the window, the city of Zarkel glowed with towers, floating lanterns, and hovering creatures. Ahead, the royal palace rose like a mountain made of crystal and flame. It shimmered under a purple sky. Inside the shuttle, Ethan found a seat of woven energy. Across from him was a small screen showing palace etiquette rules. He ignored it. What the hell is going on? He whispered. The shuttle landed at the palace gates. Servants in glowing robes met him, bowed deeply, and led him through golden halls. Everything felt like a dream. Soft music, warm air, strange lights. Every wall shimmered with moving images of past kings and queens. Finally, he reached a massive doorway. The servant stopped and smiled. The honored guest has arrived, she said. Opening the doors, Ethan stepped into the grand wedding hall. Thousands of aliens were seated in silence. Colors, shapes, and sizes beyond imagination. Every eye turned toward him. A long red path led to a floating platform where the king stood in ceremonial armor. You made it just in time, human, the king said, with a deep voice. The wedding cannot begin without you. Ethan froze. A beautiful alien girl in a shining dress stood beside the king. Her eyes glowed softly as she looked at Ethan with a strange calm. The king raised his hands. Let the bonding of worlds begin. Ethan took a step back. Wait, bonding of what? But the music started. Lights dimmed, and the doors behind him had already closed. A throne beside the bride. Ethan's heart pounded as the glowing wedding hall surrounded him. Every alien eye was locked on him, some curious, some cold, and others afraid. The floor beneath his boots vibrated softly as sacred music filled the air. He tried to back away, but 2 tall ceremonial guards had quietly stepped behind him. Their spears, made of floating crystal, hovered too close to argue with. Why is no one listening to me? Ethan muttered. I'm not the groom. I just wanted noodles. A soft laugh came from the center of the hall. Princess Jalara stood, with elegance and power beside her father, the king. Her dress shimmered like stardust, flowing with colors that changed as she moved. Her eyes, deep violet and glowing, met Ethan's. They didn't show fear, not confusion, just quiet understanding. "Don't be afraid," she said softly. "This was chosen by the stars. You came because the invitation called you, not by mistake but by fate." Ethan blinked. "No offense, Your Highness, but I think fate got drunk." Before he could say more, the king raised his arms. A wave of golden light spread from his fingertips, circling the crowd like fireflies. "By ancient law and stellar prophecy," the king declared, "our daughter, Jalara of the House of Flame, will bond with the one called from beyond the stars, the chosen human." Gasps rippled across the audience. A few alien nobles looked angry. Others whispered to each other, their antennae twitching in panic. A tall elder near the back stood up. "This is madness. A human? They are not ready. They are still so young in spirit." "The prophecy is clear," the king answered. "When the royal bloodline dims and the stars burn red, only a human bond will reignite the flame." Ethan raised his hand like a confused student. "I seriously think someone grabbed the wrong prophecy." Jalara stepped down from the platform and stood in front of him. Up close, she didn't seem royal. She seemed lonely. Her voice lowered to a whisper only he could hear. "I don't want this either. But if we don't do this, our enemies will rise. You may not believe in fate, but right now you're our only hope." She turned and extended her hand. The music paused. The hall fell silent. Ethan stared at her hand. He wanted to run, scream, wake up in his bunk, but something deep in him, some old human instinct, stopped him. Maybe it was courage, maybe stupidity, maybe the fact that her eyes weren't asking, they were trusting. He reached out and took her hand. The hall erupted in light. A bonding scroll hovered down from the ceiling, written in ancient alien script. As soon as Ethan touched it, the scroll burned with fire and etched his name, Ethan Ryder, at the top. The crowd gasped. Again, a blinding crown of energy formed above Jalara's head and another above Ethan's. The two crowns spun around each other, slowly merging into one. A bell sounded, deep and cosmic, shaking the walls. Just then, a loud screech tore through the air. 3 alien nobles stood up, dressed in black armor, their faces covered with masks of bone. "This is not the prophecy's path," one shouted. "This union is a lie." They raised black rods, and the entire wedding hall screamed as shadows exploded from their weapons. The guards rushed to protect the king and the princess. Chaos erupted. Creatures of light and shadow fought mid-air. Guests ran in panic. Energy bolts lit up the hall like thunder. Ethan grabbed Zalara's hand. "What now? Follow me," she shouted, pulling him toward a hidden door behind the throne. They ran down a glowing hallway as alarms began to blare. Statues moved to block paths. Walls shifted. Ethan realized the palace was alive, its structure changing as if it were reacting to the danger. "This bonding," Ethan said between breaths. "What does it do exactly?" Jalara looked at him. "It links our life energy. When we're near each other, our powers multiply. But if one of us dies, the other does too," Ethan finished grimly. They reached a narrow stairwell leading down, deep into the underpalace. As they descended, the sounds of battle faded. Everything grew quieter and colder. They reached a circular room with glowing roots climbing the walls. In the center stood a large platform, and above it floated a frozen image, an old painting, of a human in royal robes standing beside an alien queen. His face looked a little like Ethan. "Who is that?" Ethan asked. Jalara walked up to the platform. "No one knows his name. He was the last human chosen over 500 years ago. He disappeared before the wedding. Without him, the palace began to fall. The people grew weaker, and the enemies began to rise." Ethan stared at the frozen human's face. "You're saying I was chosen? To fix what he failed?" She nodded slowly. "No pressure, Ethan whispered. Just then, the room shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. A voice echoed from above. Jilara! You can't hide forever. One of the masked nobles had found them. His voice cracked with anger and hunger. You think a human will save you? He will destroy you, just like the last one. Ethan turned to Jilara. We need to get out of here, he said. You trust me? She took his hand again. I already did. The platform lit up, sensing their bond. A door opened in the wall, revealing a hidden tunnel. They ran into the dark. The wedding was over. The real fight was just beginning. The bonding ritual begins. The tunnel twisted beneath the palace like a living creature, pulsing with soft blue veins of light. Ethan and Jilara ran through it, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Behind them, the enemy's voice still echoed, from the chamber above. You cannot outrun destiny, princess, and you, human, you will not survive the ritual. Ethan didn't want to know what the ritual meant, but judging by Jilara's worried face, it wasn't just another wedding. Dance, where does this tunnel lead? He asked, keeping pace. To the sanctum, she replied. It's hidden deep inside the heart of the planet. No one outside the royal bloodline can enter, unless they are bonded. Well, lucky me, Ethan muttered. The tunnel began to widen and the walls pulsed faster, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. The air grew warmer, heavier. Strange symbols floated past their heads, glowing and whispering in forgotten languages. Finally, they stepped into a vast underground chamber. It was circular and massive, with a high ceiling made of glowing crystals. In the center stood a pool of liquid light, swirling with gold and blue. Hovering above it were two thrones, one shaped from stone and fire, the other from metal and wind. Between them a small platform floated. Jilara turned to him. This is the sacred bond site, she said. Here, we complete the ritual. Only then will our link be stable. Only then will the throne accept us. Ethan looked around. What happens if we don't? Jilara's face darkened. If we delay too long, the false bond will break. The power will collapse, and the palace defenses will vanish. And if we do it wrong, we die. Ethan exhaled slowly. Great, just great. Jilara stepped onto the platform and held out her hand. Don't think, don't resist, just feel. He joined her. The moment their hands touched, the light around them surged. The platform began to rise into the air. The pool below glowed brighter, sending waves of warmth into Ethan's chest. He felt strange, lighter. Thoughts not his own flickered through his mind. Childhood memories that weren't his. Starlight seen through different eyes. Jilara's memories. He saw her alone in a garden, staring at the stars. He felt her pain during training, her fear during council meetings, her longing to be free, not just from duty, but from a fate chosen long before she was born. And she felt his too. His quiet life, his losses, his guilt over the ship crash that killed his crew, his loneliness in the stars. Their minds touched, like two lights dancing in the dark. Then the voices began, not from her, not from him, from the pool below. You have come, human. You are late, but not too late. You carry a dormant code. You were not just chosen, you were made. Ethan gasped as energy wrapped around his chest. Glowing bands spun into a circle, shaping into armor not made by human hands. Jilara's eyes widened as the ritual marks appeared on her arms, lines of silver fire that moved with her veins. What's happening? Ethan asked. The sanctum is reading you, she said. You're reacting like a royal. Before they could ask more, the thrones lit up and began to shift. A new voice echoed. This one harsh, ancient, full of rage. He does not belong here. A crack formed on the chamber wall. Black smoke poured in. He carries forbidden blood. Dark figure stepped through, a masked noble, the same one from above. But now his eyes burned red. Tendrils of dark energy moved around him like snakes. He was never meant to bond with you, the figure said. I was. Jilara stepped in front of Ethan. You betrayed the crown. You tried to rewrite the prophecy. Because the prophecy was broken, the noble shouted. The last human bond destroyed our people, and now you risk doing it again. He raised his hand. A bolt of black lightning shot toward Ethan. Jalara moved without thinking. Her arm caught the blast, and the silver fire from her marks absorbed it, but barely. She fell to her knees, shaking. Ethan knelt beside her. Jalara! The noble stepped forward. See? He weakens you. Ethan stood up. The armor around him tightened, glowing hotter. The platform began to hum. I don't know what I am, Ethan said, voice steady. I didn't ask for this, but I'm not going to let you hurt her, the noble laughed. You can't stop me. Maybe not, Ethan said, but we can. He took Zilara's hand again. The platform surged. Their combined energy exploded in light. The dark noble screamed as the power hit him, blasting him backward into the chamber wall. The smoke around him vanished. His mask cracked. Underneath was a face half human, half alien. You're like me, Ethan whispered. The noble gasped. I was the first. You are the last. Then he vanished into shadow. The chamber fell silent. Ethan helped Zilara to her feet. Her eyes were filled with pain, but also awe. You completed the bond, she said. You awakened something even the throne didn't expect. I saw him, Ethan said. The masked one. He was like me, human and something else. Zilara looked toward the pool. That means the truth was buried deeper than we thought. The pool glowed again. A voice whispered, Seek the memory core. Before the others do. Only then will you know why the humans were called, and why they were feared. Ethan stepped back. His armor faded. The marks on Zilara's arms cooled. The bond was complete. But the mystery had only just begun. Enemies at the wedding gate, deep beneath the palace, the air had turned cold. The bond between Ethan and Zilara was complete. The ritual chamber was quiet now, but something in the silence had changed. It felt like the palace itself was watching them. Zilara knelt by the edge of the glowing pool, staring into the swirling liquid light. Ethan stood beside her, eyes still searching the shadows. You okay? He asked quietly. Not really, she whispered. But the bond held. That's something. Ethan looked down at his own hands. They still shimmered faintly with the afterglow of the ritual. Inside he could feel Zilara, her presence like a soft current always nearby. Her thoughts weren't clear, but her emotions were. Calm, guarded, afraid. That voice said something about a memory core. He said, Do you know where it is? Zilara nodded. It's hidden in the Star Vault. Only bonded royals can enter. Then we better get there fast. Before she could respond, the chamber rumbled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. Loud boom echoed through the tunnel behind them. That didn't sound good, Ethan muttered. Zilara stood tense. They've breached the gates. Who's they? Her jaw tightened. Those who want the bond to fail. Those who believe the prophecy was a lie. A voice echoed down the tunnel, sharp and cruel. You bonded with a human, Zilara. You chose a stranger over your own blood. Now your kingdom will burn. Zilara grabbed Ethan's hand. We have to run. They sprinted down the narrow tunnel as the sounds of war rose behind them. Roaring weapons, screeching creatures, and cries of battle. They reached a sealed door at the end of the path. Zilara placed her palm on it. It scanned both of them. With a beam of golden light, Bond confirmed. Access to Star Vault granted. The door opened. They stepped inside a dark chamber lined with floating cubes, each pulsing with faint light. This was not a place of beauty. It was a place of secrets. What is this? Ethan asked. The Star Vault, she said. Each cube holds the mind of a former ruler, memories, truths, sometimes lies. She reached out to one. The moment her fingers touched the cube, it lit up and projected a vision in the air. An alien queen stood with a human warrior. Both looked broken, tired. Behind them, a battlefield burned. Ships fell from the sky. People screamed. This was the end of the last bond, Jalara whispered. Why? Ethan asked. What went wrong? The vision shifted. The human turned toward the queen, shouting, We were supposed to unite them, but your council used me as a weapon. The queen answered, You were never meant to rule. You were meant to die for peace. The vision ended. Ethan stepped back, stunned. They used him, they planned it all. Jalara nodded, tears in her eyes. That's why he disappeared. He didn't flee. He was betrayed. Before they could speak further, another tremor shook the vault. Then came the impossible. A giant crack split the wall open, and from it stepped Jiller, Jalara's cousin and the rightful heir to the throne before the prophecy. His golden armor was scorched. His eyes burned with rage. So this is where you hide, cousin, he snarled. In the arms of a human. Jalara stepped in front of Ethan. Jiller, you don't have to do this. Don't pretend to care, he said coldly. You stole my crown. You let that outsider bond with you. For what? For love or power? For truth, she said. For our people. Our people? Jiller laughed. Half of them are dead, and the rest will never kneel to him. He pointed at Ethan. He's not one of us. Ethan stepped forward. You're right, I'm not, but I didn't ask for this. And yet, Jiller said, you accepted it. A low hum began in the chamber. Jiller raised his hand, and from his armor, a dark energy surged. You want the throne? He roared. Then take it from my corpse. Without warning, he charged. Ethan barely had time to react before a blast of energy hit the floor in front of him, throwing him back. Jalara summoned a shield of light to block another strike. Run, she shouted to Ethan. Not without you. She turned to him, eyes fierce. We split. The vault has 2 exits. Meet me at the top of the tower. What about him? I'll hold him. Before Ethan could argue, the floor beneath him shifted, responding to his bond, and launched him through a glowing tunnel of light, away from the vault. He landed hard in a different chamber, coughing. Somewhere far above, he heard the clash of Jalara's power against Jiller's. He had to reach the top. He had to protect her, but he was not alone. Shadows moved in the corners of the room. Strange figures, tall, silent, wrapped in black robes, stepped forward. Each wore a different alien mask. The center one spoke, voice like rusted metal. Groom of the stars, it said. We've been waiting. Ethan raised his fists. I'm really tired of surprises. The alien queen's secret. Ethan stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by tall, masked figures. Their black robes didn't move, even though the wind howled through cracks in the old stone. Only their masks, each carved from different alien bone, seemed alive, slowly shifting expressions as if they were studying him from inside. The tallest figure took a step forward. You are the last bonded one, the voice rasped. You carry the bloodline not born but designed. What are you talking about? Ethan asked, his voice low and cautious. Another figure spoke from the side. You are not the first human brought here, but you may be the last. The queen's sin runs through your veins. Ethan tensed. Jalara's mother? Yes, the central figure said. And the one before her, and the one before that. The House of Flame was never meant to bond with humans. Until one queen broke the law of stars. Ethan stepped back, confused. What law? A third mask lit up with eerie blue lines. No royal blood shall ever merge with human lineage. The human mind is too wild, too free. It resists control. The last time it happened, a great war began. Ethan clenched his fists. I saw the memory. She betrayed him. No, said the lead figure. She loved him, but love was never allowed for rulers. So the council erased her. And him. And everyone who remembered. The chamber trembled. Pieces of ancient stone fell from above. But you, the figure continued, you were left behind. Not you personally, but your kind. Scattered. Hidden. Your bloodlines woven into planets watching. Waiting. Ethan's heart was racing. You're saying humans were left as seeds? As tools? As keys, the masked one whispered. And you are the last unturned key. The Queen's hidden truth lies above this chamber in the stasis crypt. It has waited 500 years for someone like you. Just then, a hidden door at the back slid open. Cold air poured in. The masked figures didn't move, but their masks turned toward the tunnel. Go, they all said in unison. And remember, truths are heavier than crowns. Ethan didn't wait. He ran through the door, up a winding staircase of crystal bones. Light flickered along the walls, casting shadows of faces long dead. As he climbed, he could feel Jalara's emotions, flickering through the bond: fear, pain, hope. Finally, he emerged into a dome high above the palace, half broken by time and battle. The stars shone through cracks in the ceiling. In the center of the dome floated a single crystal sarcophagus, humming with energy. Inside it, a woman lay frozen. She was beautiful. Older than Jalara, but her face carried the same eyes. Same sharp cheekbones. Same spirit. She was Jalara's mother, the lost queen. Around the chamber, dozens of stone tablets told a story in images. Ethan walked, slowly, reading the carvings like a silent book. The queen met a human during the last age of peace. He was a warrior, sent as a diplomat. They fell in love in secret. Against council orders, she bonded with him. The bond unlocked great power, power neither side understood. With that power, they ended a 100-year war. But peace didn't last. The council feared their union, feared what would happen if others followed. So they branded her a traitor and used the bond against them. They tried to separate the lovers, but their powers resisted. The bond became unstable. Entire cities burned in the backlash. In the final act, the queen froze herself with what remained of his essence, hoping one day someone like him would return to awaken her. Ethan stared at the last carving. It showed the queen placing a small glowing orb inside a baby, a child born from love. Hidden in time, his hands trembled. Jalara, he whispered. She's the heir, and the proof. Suddenly the sarcophagus glowed. The queen's eyes opened. Ethan stepped back. You are not him, she said softly, her voice echoing inside his mind. But you carry him. He knelt beside the crystal. I'm not sure what I am anymore, Ethan said. But your daughter is out there, fighting alone. They're trying to kill her. The queen's face softened. So it begins again. The chamber rumbled. A crack split across the floor. Then, boom! A nearby wall exploded. Jiller stepped through, armor scorched, one eye bleeding, rage burning hotter than ever. You found her, he growled. Good. Now die with her lies. He raised his weapon, a staff wrapped in energy. Ethan stood between him and the queen. You'll have to go through me. Gladly. The first blast hit Ethan like a lightning strike. He flew backward, slamming into the far wall. The bond flared. Jalara felt it instantly, miles below. She screamed his name in her mind. Jiller approached the sarcophagus. You ruined the royal line, he hissed. You doomed us to extinction. The queen sat up. No, I gave us hope. Hope, he spat. You turned the bloodline into a myth. And for what? Love? Yes, she said calmly. He raised the staff again, but Ethan was already moving. He tackled Ziller mid-strike. They crashed into the wall, struggling, fists flying. The staff skidded across the floor. Ziller struck Ethan with a blade hidden in his wrist. Blood spilled. Ethan gasped. You're not worthy, Ziller hissed. You're just a mistake. Maybe, Ethan said, but mistakes change everything. He jammed his arm into Ziller's neck and activated the power of the bond. A surge of raw energy, glowing with blue and gold, exploded from Ethan's chest. Ziller screamed as the power overwhelmed him, lifting him off the ground and slamming him into the ceiling. The dome cracked. The stars looked down. Ziller fell unconscious. Ethan dropped to his knees, panting. The queen climbed out of her sarcophagus. She knelt beside him. "You are not him," she said, "but you are his echo, and you've done more than enough." Jalera arrived moments later, hair tangled, robes torn. She saw Ethan's bleeding chest and cried out, running to him. "I'm here," he whispered. We found her." Mother and daughter embraced. For the first time in centuries, 3 generations of the royal bloodline, 2 alien, 1 half-human, stood together, and far above in orbit, something began to awaken, an ancient fleet, watching, waiting. Because the queen was not the only one who remembered the truth, the groom who brought war. Above the shattered sky dome, a crackling silence spread across orbit. Then, one by one, massive shadows moved through the stars. Not ships. Not entirely. They were war-born titans, half-machine, half-organic creatures forged during the ancient bonding wars, hidden for millennia in the cold dark between galaxies. And now, they were waking. The queen stood on the tower's edge, her silver hair dancing in the wind, eyes locked on the stars. "They remember the bond," she whispered, "and they remember the war." Ethan lay nearby, wrapped in Jalara's arms. His wound had stopped bleeding, but his energy was fading. The power of the bond had taken its toll. "What? Are they?" he asked, barely able to sit up. Jalara looked up at the sky. "They're called the Judges," she said. "Ancient guardians created to monitor royal bonds between species. If a bond is seen as dangerous, they bring destruction." Ethan coughed. "And our bond?" Jalara's face darkened. "They've labeled it a threat." The queen turned toward them. Her presence was calm, but the glow in her eyes said she knew what was coming. "The council who built them believed emotions were the galaxy's greatest weakness," she said. "Love, fear, desire, anything that could alter destiny. They made the Judges to erase those who broke the balance." Ethan sat upright with effort. "You mean they're coming to erase us?" "No," the queen said. "They're coming to erase everyone who believes you should exist." As if answering her words, a sharp vibration hit the palace. Then came a deep hum, not sound, but pure force. The first judge entered the atmosphere. It was shaped like a serpent of starlight, its body coiled with ancient armor and eyes glowing like small suns. It didn't fly, it flowed, bending gravity with every movement. It opened its mouth and spoke directly into the minds of every sentient being on the planet. Bond detected. Anomaly confirmed. Judgment initiated. From the distant cities to the far villages of Zarkel, panic erupted, ships scrambled, towers activated shields. Weapons that hadn't been used in centuries powered up, but it wouldn't be enough. Inside the palace war room, Ethan stood beside Jalera and the queen as holograms of the planet's defense lines blinked red, one by one. "The fleet is too old," Jalera said. "They'll tear through us like paper." Ethan looked at the crown floating above the throne, half gold, half crystal. "Still waiting to settle on someone's head. What if we don't fight?" Ethan asked. "What if we convince them we're not a threat?" The queen shook her head. "They do not speak. They do not listen. They only judge." A royal advisor burst into the chamber. "Your Highness, the second judge is entering orbit, and there's a message." He tapped a panel. A holographic projection appeared. It showed Earth. The judges weren't just targeting Zarkel. They were preparing to wipe out every world that shared the bond's bloodline, including Ethan's home. Ethan froze. "They're going to kill humans too?" Jalera gripped his arm. "They want to erase the bond completely from all time." Ethan turned to the queen. "There has to be something we can do. A way to stop them." The queen looked at the old wall beside the throne. She reached out and pressed a hidden sigil. A hidden chamber opened. Inside, a suit of armor waited, dark silver with blue veins, of energy. It pulsed as if alive. "This is the Heart Forge," she said. "Created during the First War. It channels the full power of the bonded one. But it has a cost. What kind of cost? Ethan asked, already knowing the answer. It merges you with the throne, she said. You become the soul of the kingdom, not just its protector, but its prisoner. Jalara stepped forward. No, I won't lose him. The queen met her daughter's eyes. Then the people will lose everything. Silence filled the room. Outside, the sky turned red as the third judge appeared, a winged colossus shaped like an angel of fire. Ethan stepped into the chamber. Lock the suit, he said. Jalara ran to him. Ethan, wait, there has to be another way. He held her hands. I'm not doing this to be a hero. I'm doing this because I love you. Tears formed in her eyes. You don't have to say goodbye, she whispered. I'm not, he said. I'm saying, we'll find a way back. He stepped into the heart forge. The armor closed around him. Light flooded the room as the bond activated on a planetary level. Ethan's voice echoed through every speaker, every mind, every soul on Zarkel. I was never meant to be part of this. I didn't choose the prophecy, but I choose to protect what it gave me. If the judges want war, I'll give them one. In orbit, the first judge fired. A beam of pure unmaking energy shot toward the palace, but it never hit. The palace lifted, into the air, transformed by Ethan's energy. Wings of fire spread from its sides. Towers reformed into cannons of light. The Throne Walker, a living warship once lost to history, had returned. Inside, Ethan floated at the core, his mind fused with the ship, every part of him connected to every piece of the palace. He spoke once, quietly, but it was heard across the stars. This is not the end of the bond. This is its beginning. He launched forward. The palace struck the first judge head-on, breaking through its core. The serpent of starlight howled and fell in pieces across the skies, but two more remained, and behind them came dozens more waking from the dark. Ethan's strength faded with each second, his body burning from inside out. Jalara, inside the command center, felt it all, his pain, his will, his love. We'll find another way, she whispered, holding onto his voice in the bond. I swear. But Ethan knew something she didn't. The Heartforge had no exit. If the judges were to fall, he wouldn't survive. But he smiled anyway, because for the first time in his life he was exactly where he needed to be, the king by choice. Ethan's body floated at the core of the Throne Walker, wrapped in armor forged from memory, fire, and fate. He was no longer just a man. He was the will of the palace, the beating heart of a world that never expected to be saved by a human. Above him, the sky was a battlefield. The first judge, the serpent of stars, had fallen. Its shattered remains burned across the sky like a meteor storm. But its fall had awakened the rest. 17 judges now circled Zarkel. Each was a god machine built to erase history. Each had judged Ethan's bond as unnatural, forbidden, a fracture in the design of the galaxy, and now they had come to destroy everything touched by it. Inside the command chamber, Jalara stood gripping the controls, her eyes locked on the orbit maps. The queen, silent but focused, watched beside her. His life force is fading, Jalara said through gritted teeth. The heart forge is draining him. The queen nodded. It always does. The forge was never meant for love. It was made for war. Then it's time we change that, Jalara said, eyes glowing with purpose. In the skies above, Ethan's thoughts moved faster than light. He could see the movement of each judge, feel the power readings in every circuit of the Throne Walker, predict every blast before it struck. But he could also feel Jalara, her fear, her strength, her belief in him, and it gave him just enough power to hold the Throne Walker together as it fired a beam of pure golden energy into the nearest judge, a six-winged titan shaped like a bird of glass. The beam struck true. The judge screamed without sound and shattered, but that victory came with a price. A sharp crack ran down Ethan's armor. His heartbeat staggered. Pain bloomed through his chest. The throne whispered in his mind, "You are the last king, born from a broken law. Your purpose is fulfilled. End the bond. Complete the loop." "No," Ethan whispered. "I won't be your weapon." But the armor pulsed. It wanted obedience. It wanted sacrifice. And it was taking him apart piece by piece. Down below, Zilara and the queen stepped into the deepest vault beneath the palace, a chamber sealed since before the First War. Inside floated a crystal obelisk, ancient, humming with energy. It was the soul root, the oldest piece of Zarkelle's memory, and within it lay a secret the queens had kept for generations. "This is the last chance," the queen said. "If we activate this, it will rewrite the Throne Walker's laws." Zilara placed her hand on the crystal, then let it be rewritten. Not for power, for love. The crystal pulsed. A beam shot upward, through the palace, through the clouds, and into the Throne Walker's core. Ethan screamed as it hit him. But then, everything changed. He wasn't alone anymore. Zilara's thoughts entered his mind, not as a shadow, but as light. Her memories, her soul, her strength. They were now co-pilots of fate. The Throne Walker glowed brighter than a star. The judges paused in orbit. Something had changed. The anomaly had evolved. No longer one bonded soul, but two perfectly fused. They judged again, and for the first time in their existence, they hesitated. One judge, shaped like a sphere of silver wings, spoke. New signal detected. Shared will. Unbroken bond. This is unprecedented. Requires reevaluation. But the others disagreed and fired. All 17 beams of annihilation rained down on Zarkell. Ethan saw it coming, but now he wasn't just reacting, he was becoming. He called on every memory the palace had ever stored, every soul it had ever protected, and he released it. The Throne Walker opened like a flower of light, a shield of history, emotion, and unity, surrounded the planet. The beams hit and stopped. The planet shook, but it did not fall. When the light faded, only one being remained in the sky. Ethan, glowing like a sun surrounded by the shattered ruins of the Throne Walker. His armor cracked and broken, his breathing slow. "Zilara," he whispered. "I'm here." Her voice said inside his mind, "Hold on. I don't think I can." "Yes, you can," she said, "because we're not finished." Back in the palace, the queen stepped forward. "Bring him home." Hundreds of glowing drones rose from the city, circling upward in a spiral of gold and blue. They reached Ethan's body, cradled him gently, and carried him down through the clouds. He landed on the palace steps, broken, but alive. Zilara ran to him, tears streaming. She cradled his face. "You came back." He opened his eyes. "Because you were the one calling me." The queen stepped beside them. "The judges have stopped. They've left our skies." "Why?" Zilara asked. "Because the bond passed their final test," the queen said. "It didn't destroy, it protected. Not for power, but for each other." The throne floated down from the ruins of the sky, reshaped by their love. It no longer demanded a ruler. It offered a choice. Zilara turned to Ethan. "What now?" He looked at the throne and then back at her. "I don't want to be a king because of some prophecy. I want to build a new world. With you. Side by side." She smiled. "Then let's build it together." They stepped forward and placed their hands on the throne. Together. The crown split in two. One half placed itself above Ethan's head, the other above Zilara's. Not rulers of each other, rulers with each other. The crowd below erupted in cheers, not just for the ceremony, but for the dawn of a new age. Days later, across the stars, a new beacon lit up in the galactic core. Not a warning, not a weapon, but a signal. Bond accepted, future rewritten. And in a quiet garden beneath the palace, Ethan sat with Zilara beneath a tree that hadn't bloomed in centuries. Its petals fell around them like soft snow. She leaned on his shoulder. Do you think it's really over? Ethan smiled. No, but I think it's just beginning. And high above, in the void where war had once waited, peace returned, because the human didn't just attend a wedding, he changed a galaxy. The end.